Hey guys, Stealth here. Today I'm looking at a Scandinavian mechanized deck. Now keep in mind this is at the time that the DLC 2 is active, so the Second Korean War has been released. This third DLC, which is pending, has not been released yet. So by the time that you may be watching this video it might be outdated because there are a lot more interesting units inside the Scandinavian armory. So for now this is what we got in the Scandinavian mechanized deck. Now the person who sent this in says this is my Scandinavian mechanized infantry, who I've been using a lot lately. It's a deck where elite stormers are being supported by IFVs, and of course the S-tank is of very good importance, especially if you're doing stuff like ambushes. Also Scandinavia has an interesting air force, as you can see here, and we're going to take a closer look at that later on. For now, let's have a look at the logistics, where I do see a potential problem in the fact that he only has 4 command vehicles, or 4 command units. Now this is command infantry, and this does seem a little low. It depends of course on what kind of deck you're using, or what kind of map you're playing, and whether it's conquest or destruction, because in conquest CVs tend to get taken down a little more often than in destruction, because artillery is going to actively go hunting for those things a little bit more, since conquest has the zones which need to be captured or neutralized. So you do get 4 command units here, 4 command infantry, but I think it's a little light. I would prefer switching these guys out and then bringing in, see, this is a bit on the high end again, that's the other side of the spectrum. This is 8 command vehicles. But you could go somewhere in the middle where you have 5 command vehicles with some armor. The rovers of course again are 8. This is also 4. Yeah, I'd go with 5 or 8 depending on how much you value your armor. And then of the 2, let's see, this one has an off-road of 60 and this one of 65. Let's go with this one. He has 1 logistics chopper, 1 logistics truck in the form of the Amphibil 101, which is just a British stalwart, and keep in mind that these things are amphibious, so they can pop up in places where you might not expect them. And you use that to your advantage to resupply allies or your own units which are in a pinch, which cannot be resupplied by normal means. Now, as he mentioned in the description, his main force is stormers. And he has a lot of infantry in this deck, 106 units. Of course, a large part of that is the 30 reserve units that he has here in the form of the LHVs. He has 3 cards of elite stormers. I think that's a bit much, but what you also get is the elite NM135, and this is an IFV with a very nice autocannon. The RH202 is something that we also see on German Martyrs, for example, and of course the German Lux vehicles. And with these things you can suppress infantry and do some damage to vehicles, but not a lot versus tanks. But that's where the Stormers come in, with their 18 AP power Carl Gustav M2 launcher. Good accuracy, good all-round shock infantry. And having 30 of these guys means that you have a very powerful infantry force. Even if you had only these 30 guys, I think you'd be set. He also has the Panzerskite, and they got the STRF 9040, which I really like. This thing has helped me out so many times that if I get the opportunity to bring 1 or multiple of these things in, I always take it. The difference is between the STRF 9040 and this one, the NM135, is that the STRF has a bit more armor and the autocannon is generally better because it has more AP power and more accuracy. This one only has 15% accuracy, this one is fully stabilized and has a good accuracy of 60%. So what I would do here is still bring the Stormers, but not in this vehicle, but in another one. I would bring them in the NM113, so that I can get more Panzerskite in the STRFs, because those are just performing better, and the infantry that's inside is pretty much the same. if it wasn't for the fact that they don't carry the Light Machine Gun 3, which also has CQC tag, and that they're regular trained troops. That is the downside to bringing the STRFs. Now, this guy has fixed that problem by bringing in the STRFs using other infantry. So he has the RBS 90 AAs, man-pads units, good range on these things, 2800 meters, and it gives him 8 more of these STRFs at the range, at the rank of hardened. He got RBS 56. Now these guys, while they do have a very high AP power on their launcher, they have a very, very short range, and by the time that you fire, the tank can also fire. So that is something that I always find quite risky, really, on these units. He has 10 of these, which I think is a bit high, but you do get the STRF 9040, so yeah, it's a trade-off. But considering the fact that he already has 30 of these infantry guys, I would go with possibly one card of these guys transported in the APC, so that I can bring up another one of these STRFs. The question is which kind of infantry. See, he has a lot of general infantry here, and by that I mean just rifle teams, really. He does not have a lot of specialized stuff like the AA and the man-pads, the man-pads and the ATGMs. So what I would do here is delete the LHV 40 or the LHV, because those really aren't that good. And I would bring in some more AA units so that you have another slot of those. And we can bring in 8 hardened or 5 at veteran. I would bring in 5 veteran because that gives you 13 AA units. It still gives you 8 STRV 9040s or STRF 9040s, and it gives you a bit more advanced or a bit more trained AA units. He also has the elite troops in here, the Kustjäger and the Fallskärmjäger, and these guys are of course very, very capable of anti-infantry warfare with both their weapons, both the AK-4 and the saw that they carry. This thing has a CQC tag, and I believe it is pretty much the same spec as the LMG3. You can see that they have the same range, the same accuracy, the same, pretty much the same everything. The only difference is the rate of fire. But since these guys are elite, they might have some unspec'd advantages that you don't see here. Also, the Fallskärmjäger, these guys carry the Erics, and with these you can set up beautiful ambushes behind enemy lines if you get these guys in. The problem though with them is that if you bring them in a Bell 204, and that is pretty much the only option that you have, these choppers have low autonomy, 300 kilometers. That is not always enough to get from one side to the other side of the battlefield. So sometimes you'll have to go through the hassle of having a fleet of these, say 4 or 5, combined with one logistics chopper to make sure that these things don't run out of fuel. So I trimmed his 104 infantry force down to 81, which I still think is very, very many infantry units. But it should be capable of doing a lot of urban fighting and jungle warfare. The one thing it's not good at, of course, is open grounds. So a map like Hop and Glory is not really a good area of operations for this deck. Moving on to support, where he has the Veek 40. These guys are SPAGs, also known as self-propelled anti-air guns. They are radar guided, so if you use them, keep in mind that they can be targeted. He has 4 NOAAs. He has these at hardened. See, there's a difference. You can bring in 5 at trained or 4 at hardened. They carry 3 missiles each, so this gives you 12 missiles, this one gives you 15. But the accuracy is going to be a bit less. Personally, I would go for not 5 NOAAs, but not 4, but 5. And by doing it like this, you have a slightly better anti-air force. You could, if you want to, switch out the NOAA and go for the RBS Hawk, but that thing has an accuracy of 40% versus 60% on the NOAA. Next, he has a howitzer. He has a group of 4, so he keeps these at trained, which I agree with. A good point there. He also has 8 howitzers, and this is going to be the main support for his infantry. The problem though is that these things are not very capable of taking out tanks. So he has a lot of anti-infantry / anti-vehicle force, but we still need to fix the anti-tank capability, but we might find that in the other tabs. He has some AA units, and these carry the same or the lesser version as the infantry. The infantry carry the RBS 90 and these carry the RBS 70, which is a slightly older version. But you get a high number of these. You get 15 or 10, and they're only 25 apiece. So there's a very, very good chance that you're going to score at least 1 chopper with these things, ranking at least 25 points to say 130 if you manage to take down a KA-152, KA-52. So this anti-air force looks good. He has 3 units here, and he has, with my adjustments, 13 infantry, so that should be okay. In the tank tab, he has 18 of the STRV 103Cs. This means that he has quite a bit of anti-tank power, but not high-end, and that is something that DLC 3 will address, because in the DLC, I believe Denmark is going to get Leopard 2, I think 2A4s. So that gives them a bit more high AP power, but for now, until we get that, this is the best you can get. Because all of the other tanks don't have an AP power higher than 15. Unless I'm forgetting one, but I don't think so. Another thing that you need to keep in mind for these things is that they don't have a turret. So you need to aim these things directly at the target. That means that they will pretty much always be using their frontal armor towards the target. It also means that if there is a target behind it, it cannot just swing its turret around, it has to turn the entire vehicle around, which can take a bit longer to get the gun on target than if you were using a turreted tank. Still, I really like these tanks, and I think that they are extremely effective if used well. Just don't send these guys out against a T-80U, for example. A T-72BU, T-90s, they're all going to chew through this thing like nothing. Recce, he has 8 Volkskermjäger. These are good units. Not only can they do anti-infantry warfare, they can only do some anti-vehicle, then they only carry 4 rockets of this. He has 8 of these, which is the hardened variety. I think that is enough as passive spotters. If you want to get more passive spotters, you could go with the Opkladung or the Spjedrene. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If there's anyone from the Scandinavian countries, please help me with my pronunciation on these units, because I don't always know really well how to pronounce them. Anyway, I think that 8 of these guys is more than enough. Bringing them in HKP 4C is of course a good option, because it's the best way to deploy them quickly. Alternatively, you can get the TGB 13, but that doesn't really weigh against the mobility and flexibility of a chopper. He also has HKP 6As, which are the recon choppers. You can get different choppers, but I believe that those HKPs are the best that they can get. Comparing them to the Kayusi and the Scout Defender quickly, these are definitely the best. And then he has 5 ancient Chaffies, really. These Chaffies are good as passive spotters, but I would not really use them offensively, because they only got 2 frontal armor. They got very good optics, not great off-road speed at 55, but they do have a cannon which gives you 10 AP power and 40 accuracy. They do have to be stationary to fire. So again, this is mostly passive spotting. The one thing I'm missing here is active spotting. You do have the helicopter for that. But having one more unit that can do this would be nice. At least something that's a little faster. You could go for that with the M41 DK1, also known in World of Tanks as the Walker Bulldog. The thing with this is that it only has good optics, where the NM116 has very good optics. So I'm really looking for something that has very good optics and is still maneuverable. And there don't seem to be a lot of options. So I guess that this is really the lesser of all evils, and I agree with his choice of bringing these, although Wildcats could also be an interesting choice. They do have a nice autocannon on top of them, or of course the Walker Bulldog, but they are not as high AP power, or sorry, they have the same AP power as the Chaffee, but less good less optics. I would like to get a third recon unit here, but we're gonna have to dig up 2 points from some other section, and that might not be a good idea. Vehicles. This is where the main anti-tank capability has to come from, because we haven't really seen that in infantry, tanks or recce. So what we need to look for is something that has very high anti-tank capability, like ITOs or TOW2s, because we do have high AP power in infantry, but it's all short range. So he has these APCs with the ITO on top of them, and this is 20 AP power. These are nice to have. He has 10 of these to give them a bit more accuracy, and this will pretty much all the time guarantee a hit, especially if these guys gain a bit of veterancy. Next is the M92 PNMK. This I find an interesting unit because it's pretty much an infantry transport, or at least that's what it looks like. It does have an autocannon, but the autocannon I don't find that great, because it only has an accuracy of 30%. It does have a high rate of fire, and it does have some AP and HE power, but I never really found a specific use for these things. And considering that he also has a ton of these NM135s and STRV-9040s, I think that we can just safely delete this thing. He also has IKV-91s, which are officially classed as tank destroyers. I don't think that they can fulfill this role anymore, because with 11 AP power there are not a lot of tanks that you're going to be capable of doing a lot of damage to. They do fire heat, and that means they will do some damage with every shot, but it's not going to be a lot. So the IKVs are more capable units against other transports, but again you could say that you already have a lot of anti-transport capability in the infantry tab and the recon tab. So again, I'm going to delete the IKV-91. I know it's a nice unit, but I don't think that this is the best use for this slot of this unit. Next we got the NM142, another very high AP power unit, 25 with 70% accuracy. He has 5 of these, and I'm going to add another 5 just because these add the long range anti-tank capability that we're lacking everywhere else. That does leave me with 1 more point. Let's see what else we can shop from this side. You got recoilless rifles, ITOs, TOW2s, we got those in. So now we've got 20 anti-tank vehicles, which is nice. We don't really need any others. Let's just stick with this for now, see if we can spend that point somewhere else. 1 helicopter here, and this is the anti-tank helicopter with 20 AP power. The alternative is the TOW Defender, which has the TOW versus the ITOW on this helicopter. This one has less accuracy, less AP power, and less missiles. Sorry, the same amount of missiles. I'm mistaken this one for the German one. This thing is quite capable, and he has 8 of these at hardened. I think that with the vehicles in the vehicle tab with all their AT weaponry, we have enough anti-tank capability now. Moving on to the Air Force, where we find 4 F-16A Block 15s. This is air superiority fighters. A second group of air superiority fighters. This is a bit much, especially since he has 4 of these at trained. So he is really going for air dominance. Then he has Fighting Falcons, Block 5s and Vigans. I agree with these fighters, with these bombers. The Vigan dropped their Mjolnir. This is a very, very deadly cluster bomb. The Block 5s dropped their Carpet Bomb, pretty much. 12 227 kilogram bombs, quite effective against pretty much any infantry. Although infantry that's entrenched in a town is not going to take as much damage as you would normally like. And then he has the F-16A Fighting Falcon, which carried two 1000 kilogram bombs. These are all brought in at the lowest veterancy, so he has the highest amount of them. I think he has way too many air superiority fighters, so I'm going to delete both and see what kind of fighters are the best that they have to offer. And there aren't that many. He had the Vigans in, and I like these air superiority fighters. Let's compare these quickly to the F-16s. I want something that has a good turn radius, good ECM, exceptional air detection versus very good. Weaponry, 2 and 2. 6 is exactly the same weapon system, pretty much. Spec-wise, that is. Just that the AIM-9M on this fighter is a bit better accuracy-wise and HE power-wise than the one on the Vigan. So we're going to go with 3 of these at Elite to make sure that the AIM-7M Sparrows pretty much all guarantee a hit. And you could say that with this, we don't really need a 5th slot, but there is one unit that I really like. And that's not that one. Where are you? Here, the SK-60B. This fires a very, very high HE power missile, and with that it's pretty unique. It's you could say it's an anti-tank missile without anti-tank capability, but switched to an HE role. And this is capable of uprooting infantry that's entrenched in a town. Now I know that the F-16 Block Block 5 can also, no, the other one. This one can also do that. But I think that this one is an interesting unit to have in your deck. Of course, with the DLC 3 that's pretty much pending, or at least been pending for months, this could all change. So again, by the time you might be watching this, it might be outdated, and I'll try to have a video on DLC 3 up as soon as it gets released. But for now I would just throw in 4 of these SKB-60s. Leaves us with 1 point to spend, and we're going to go back to the vehicle tab. I know I'm leaving a lot of points here. You could say that it might be a more efficient use to get some of these guys over here, but I do like the Scandinavian infantry. These are very deadly units, and combined with all of those APCs could form quite a terrible line versus infantry. So we're going to revisit the vehicle tab. You know what, we're going to take the IKVs anyway, because these are going to sit between the AP power on the IFVs, the S-tanks, and the AT weapons that we have here. We're going to take 15 of those, and that's this deck done. Now let me know what you think of this deck. If you like it, the deck code is down below. Also, if you do like it, please hit the like button below my video. If you want to see more of my videos, subscribe to my channel, and if you have any good suggestions on how this deck could be adjusted even further, please let me know in the comments down below. I'm not entirely certain what kind of units DLC 3 will bring. I know that there are quite a few new ones, and I have seen pictures of them, but of course they haven't released the stats yet. So we don't know about all of these units, what they are, what they can do, and how effective they can be. Replacing roles that other units right now have already taken. So by the time the DLC 3 hits, I'll have a video up as soon as possible with probably a complete overhaul of all the Scandinavian decks. So until then, this is the Scandinavian Mechanized deck. I hope you like it, and I hope to see you next time.